Hey everybody, I'm Vera Stewart and welcome to the VeryVera Show. You know, it's my favorite time of year, it's the holidays, and I'm going to be making recipes today out of my new cookbook, Occasions. And the book is written by season, so you can find all of your favorite recipes for any time of the year. We have spring flings, we have summer celebrations, fall gatherings, and winter socials. And each of those chapters has a special holiday, so hopefully you'll enjoy making some of those. So today we're going to be doing 3 recipes. We're going to start with the chestnut and pear stuffing. I cannot begin to tell you how amazing this dish is. You're going to love it. And then a crown roast. It sounds fancy, it looks amazing. We're going to walk you through all the steps. And then finally, you can't have holidays without a pecan pie, especially in the South. And if you're looking for something fun to do with the children or grandchildren, how about a Santa cookie? All right, let me get my apron on and we'll get started on that chestnut and pear stuffing. I love hosting my family during the Christmas holidays, and with this family as big as ours, sometimes I have to do it on the 23rd, sometimes I have to do it the weekend before Christmas, but I always do it like it's Christmas dinner. This chestnut and pear stuffing crown roast is absolutely fabulous, and it's kind of a tradition. So what I've gone ahead and done is I cut my bacon into little small pieces, and then I've gotten it very crispy in the pan. So now I'm going to start adding the vegetables. And this recipe is in our new cookbook, Occasions, and the photography is so beautiful in there as well. So we'll add the celery, the sweet onions, our friends from Schumann Farms. And then the last ingredient, some folks are not familiar with. This is fennel, and it's white. It's in the onion family, but it has a licorice flavor, and I absolutely love it with everything that we're using in this recipe. But if for some reason you think that flavor would not appeal to your guests, then you can leave that out and just add some extra onions. So I'm going to let this cook for about 8 to 10 minutes. All right, so this is looking great and smelling even better. So I'm going to keep making it a happy thing to do. So we're going to start with fresh rosemary. And this is when my daughter-in-law Mallory's rosemary bushes in her backyard come in really handy. So I'll stir that in, and then some chopped garlic. And I love to use the fresh garlic for this. And at this point, and I did a little tasting during the break, I'm going to add just a little bit of salt. And this is a pink sea salt grinder that I picked up at the fresh market that is just perfect. So this will cook for about 1 to 2 minutes. All right, again, just little steps, but it adds so much to the flavor and the consistency of the vegetables. So now we're going to put in some other really delicious ingredients. So these are chestnuts, and this time of year, they are available at the fresh market and at your grocery store. And it just is such an amazing flavor, the nuttiness of it with everything else. And just remember, because they're not always available, they actually freeze. So while they're in the store, you might want to buy a couple of extra bags. You're gonna love this dish. You can make it any time of year. All right, dried cranberries. So now you've got a little bit of sweetness, and even better on sweetness are these amazing pears that again are in season this time of year. And so taking advantage of recipes that use seasonal vegetables and seasonal fruits really makes this dish unique and very appropriate for this time of year. All right, so now a little white wine doesn't hurt anything. And what we're gonna do is let this reduce by about half. So I'll keep it on about a medium heat, and we'll let that cook down. All right, this is reduced down by about half. And in my bowl over here, and if you don't have a bowl this big, you can divide it between 2 bowls. Just work with what you have. But this is sourdough bread that's been cut into cubes. Now I'm gonna add every bit of this to this mixture. And you know, dressing and stuffing is very much like green beans during the holidays. Everybody has their own recipe. but y'all, this is so delicious. So we're gonna mix that together. And then I have my chicken broth that I picked up at the fresh market. And what you do here is you're just looking for a good moisture because this is gonna stuff in the top of the roast, and then the rest of it can go in a pan. All right, so when we come back, we'll get started on part 2 of this recipe, which is getting that crown roast ready. Welcome back, everybody, and if you're just joining me, we are doing Christmas dinner. And in my family, it could be the weekend before or 2 days before, just whenever I can get everybody together. So this recipe for the crown roast with the chestnut and pear stuffing is in our newest cookbook that is written by occasion. So this is one of the winter recipes that is absolutely spectacular. Obviously, you can see that this will be the star of the show. You could put this in the middle of the table instead of a centerpiece. All right, so we had a little bit to do in advance. So first of all, you start by going to the fresh market and getting real friendly with the butcher, because this is not something that they always have on hand in the store. And a crown roast is literally a pork loin that has the bones in it. So you can do an 8 bone all the way up to a 13 bone roast. But when we do it, we go big. So this is 13 bone crown roast. And they'll have it all prepared for you, but you do have to order in advance. It's also put together with twine. So just look at it when you are seasoning it to see how many pieces of twine that you have to make sure that you get it all off. The other thing that we did in advance was get this amazing baste that we did on there. So it starts with oil, and then to that you're going to add garlic, fresh rosemary, sage, red pepper flakes, and again the extra virgin olive oil, and a little bit of salt and pepper. And depending on the size of your roast, if you've got a smaller roast, you may not need all of that oil, but be sure to get all the goodie out of there to get that on the actual roast. All right, so now we're going to do the pan sauce for this. And again, we're pretty heavy on the garlic, but it all cooks into what you're doing today. So I'm gonna sprinkle my fresh garlic in the pan, and this is going to be the sauce. Everything that I'm doing right here is going to be the sauce that goes over this when you serve it. All right, now I've got very finely chopped celery. You know, this is when you can get that young person in the kitchen learning about chopping and dicing and helping get prepared for a special occasion. All right, we've got the sweet onion again from Schumann Farms. Evenly distribute that, and then the fennel. So we've really just duplicated what was in the dressing. And you know, during the break, I got that stuffing made and in a casserole dish, and I've saved back just enough to put in the top. So let me go ahead and do that, and see how moist it is. It's just the right consistency. And this is more or less of a garnish to this roast. I recommend that you actually serve what you're cooking in the casserole dish. And the extra chicken broth, as it's cooking, if you see that it's looking a little dry, you can add some more to it while it's baking. All right, so that looks good. And I'll add the rest of that to the casserole dish. Now I'm gonna put in my wine. And I'll just do that from this side and let it circle about. And then we're going to put in a couple of bay leaves, one on this side and one on that side. And then finally, I've got some chicken broth, and I'm going to use about half of that in there as well. And all of these ingredients are basically very seasonal. And if you don't have homemade chicken stock on hand, I highly recommend the Fresh Markets brand. I use it all the time. All right, so now you're gonna take some little pieces of aluminum foil, and we wanna do the dull side up. And you're just gonna cover these bones so they don't get too brown. I've preheated my oven to 450, and this is gonna go in at 450 for 30 minutes, but please sure to set a timer because you're gonna reduce the heat to 350 after 30 minutes. I'm also going to be using my probe that goes with my M-Series oven today, and even though I'm timing things, that oven is very smart and it's gonna know exactly when to turn it off. All right, so I'll keep working on this, get this ready to go. And when we come back from the break, we'll get started on the pecan pie. But in Vera's Corner today, I'm going to give you a tip on easy Santa cookies. So see you back in just a few minutes. Vera's Corner is brought to you by TaxSlayer. Are you ready to make holiday cookies with your children or your grandchildren, but you think it's so much trouble? Well, guess what? I've got an easy recipe that you're gonna have more fun than they will. Begin by making your favorite sugar cookie dough. Shape it into a disc and then wrap it tightly with plastic wrap. Place the dough in the fridge. You want to make sure it's chilled all the way through, so refrigerate for at least an hour, but preferably overnight. Roll out the dough until it's about 1/4 of an inch thick. No cookie cutter? No problem. Use the top of a glass to get the perfect circle. Line a baking sheet with parchment paper and chill the cookie dough rounds for another 30 minutes. Bake cookies and be sure to remove them before they are golden to ensure they are not overbaked. Using a small spatula, make the beard with the white icing on the bottom half of the cookie and use the red icing to create the hat. Make sure to leave some room in the middle for the face. Add some texture to the hat by piping the white icing along the rim. Use a small dot of frosting to attach the chocolate chip for eyes and the cinnamon candy for the nose. Add a miniature marshmallow to the end for a pom-pom. Enjoy these delicious treats with the kids, but make sure to leave some for Santa. Start free today at TaxSlayer.com. Welcome back, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed Vera's Corner. Aren't those cookies adorable? I mean, those would be great to leave for Santa on Christmas Eve. So I hope you'll try that recipe. And again, remember, you can watch any of these sorts of things on our YouTube channel. All right, so Christmas dinner would not be complete without pecan pie. Some people say pecan, I say pecan. Tomato, so I guess it's up to you. But we love this pie, and what we love about it also is the fact that you don't have to make the pie crust. So I love to recommend in the new cookbook, when there is something semi-homemade that you can use successfully, I recommend it. So this is the Pillsbury pre-made pie crust that come two to a box in the refrigerator section of your store. And you can use one, they're individually wrapped, they're rolled up. So what I did in advance was I unrolled it, I folded it in half, and then I folded it in fourths. And the reason I do that is that you can then make sure you've got it in the center of the pie pan. It's much easier to maneuver if you folded it. I did that, then I took my fork and pricked the bottom and the sides, but then I love to do my crimped pie crust, and that's basically your point finger and your thumb and your other point finger, and you just make a scalloped edge. If you're uncomfortable with that, you can just use a fork, but I do suggest doing something to get it over the glass edge. All right, then I took my Pearson Elliott halves. This is Pearson Farm, the pecan company that we partner with, and these are their just so tasty little Elliott halves. And on this recipe, it will tell you to take just circles, and you're getting them very close together. You layer all of your pecans in the bottom of the pie. And the magic to this recipe is that when it's done, they're gonna all rise to the top just like that. So we certainly hope that will happen today. All right, so I have put my eggs in a large measuring cup because it's much easier to pour this in the pie shell if you're using a large cup. I've also preheated my oven to 350, so it's gonna be ready to go. So now to this, I'm gonna add light corn syrup. This is when you want to make sure that you use a spatula to get all of that out. so you've got an accurate measurement. All right, then I've got light brown sugar. I have melted butter, and all of these recipes are on our website at VeryVera.com. I've got some kosher salt and a little fresh market vanilla. We'll mix that together. And then basically, other than decorating the bottom, this is a very easy recipe to put together. So I have a sheet pan over here that I always recommend when you're doing something, especially for the first time and you're not familiar with how it's going to perform in your oven, that you utilize a sheet pan to go under it. It's much easier to get it in and out of the oven if you've done that. And then while it's baking, maybe set the timer for 10 minutes earlier than the recipe calls for, again, just to make sure that your oven is matching up with the recipe. And if it's getting too brown, you can cover the edges with aluminum foil. Or if you really want to do something special, then I recommend that you go to Amazon and look for this pie crust shield that is called Tan Don't Burn. And I know some of you remember that that was Coppertone's logo, but honestly it works really well, and I'm going to use that today. So I'll get this put on the pie pan. We'll get it in the oven, and when we come back from the break, I'm going to have my dining room all ready for this little get together. So I will see you back in just a few minutes. Welcome back, everybody, and welcome to my home. You know, I have not filmed a show in my dining room in quite a while. And for those of you that have been part of the show for years, you may remember dark oriental rugs and maybe heavier furniture. And I'm so thrilled with my new look. The softer colors, the furniture is lower and more pronounced, and it's really opened up this part of our home. And one of the main reasons I decided to do this is that I love to entertain in the dining room. I think all of us are probably guilty of not using the living room very often because we all have big dens and outside spaces. So I put the dining room in the living room, which is actually the room that you walk right into when you come to our home. But what could be more inviting if you're having a dinner party than to walk into the room with the fire and a beautifully set table? That's actually one of my favorite parts of entertaining. So today we really did it all right. The Christmas dinner with the stuffed pork crown roast is amazing. So let's start with that. It has a chestnut pear stuffing that smells great. There's so many different textures, colors in this, and it is moist and delicious. I think if you make this for any time of year, Easter with ham or Mother's Day with another dish, you're gonna really enjoy it. So I hope you'll be sure to check that recipe out. And then the actual pork roast part, remember that this has to be ordered in advance. And I've gotten to be very friendly with my two butchers at the fresh market. Both of them have been there for quite a while. They see me coming and they know I've got a special order. But give them about 10 days in advance to do that. And remember that it's wrapped, it's a loin, and it's wrapped with twine. So you want to make sure that you get all the twine off, and then you're going to lay it out like a loin again. Take a good sharp knife and you're going to cut it into chops. And it plates so beautifully if you put the stuffing and then lay the pork on top. And then I've decided to do honey roasted carrots just for a pop of color. It's beautiful. And you know, when you're thinking about maybe doing something with the children in the kitchen, we sell a lettuce knife on our camp website that's very sharp. The kids learned how to use it and use it properly, and you can cut all of these vegetables with that knife. That might be a great stocking stuffer. All right, then we did the pecan pie. And you know, if it's not enough to work with your really good friends, these pecans, these Elliott halves from Pearson Farm, are so delicious. And they floated right to the top just like I told you they would. You want to make sure that you let the pie cool well before you cut it so you get a beautiful slice. And then top it with whipped cream or Cool Whip. And remember when I told you to check that pie 10 minutes before the end time? you want to look to make sure that it's brown enough, because if it's not, you're going to take that pie shield off to get that golden color. And I gave you a tip about a product, Tan Don't Burn, and that's going to be on Amazon. And while you're there, you might want to pick up the VeryVera cookbooks. All right, then I've got another tip for you today, cassava bread. This is for all of you that are gluten-free, that are looking for some choices. He's got lots of choices on his website, and he's right here in Evans, Georgia, so I hope you'll check it out. My centerpiece today is long and low. I went right out in my yard with the plants that I bought from Go Buy Plants, trimmed for my centerpiece today, and it's beautiful. Well, as I always say on the VeryVera show, no matter what you do, do it in good taste. Merry Christmas, everybody, and Happy New Year. We'll see you in January.